Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
Namaskar. I, Dr. Reena Vaishnav, Assistant Professor in Department of English at Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University. Today in this session, a poem which is written by Robert Frost. He composed this poem in a single night. This poem, it is included in the collection of poems called New Hampshire. And for this collection, Robert Frost has won Pulitzer Prize. Can you imagine which poem it is? Anyone have any idea about it? Yes. Today we are going to talk about the poem Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. It is written by Robert Frost. Before we analyze the poem line by line, apparently as well as symbolically, before that, I want that you see one video. It is actually a recitation of the poem. So, let's watch one video, and after that, we will analyze this poem symbolically and without a meaning as well. Okay?
Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and the frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep.
So, after watching this video, we are going to analyze the poem line by line. But before that, I want to say some key facts regarding this poem. The facts which I have already mentioned in the very first line, this poem is most read poem of Robert Frost. Second, it is composed in only one night. The poem appears in the collection New Hampshire. It is a collection of poems written by Robert Frost, who is an American poet. And for this collection of poetry, Robert Frost won the Pulitzer Prize. Pulitzer Prize, it is given by Columbia University. It is especially for the field of journalism, mass communication, literature and musical concert, especially within the area of United States of America. Next, before we analyze the poem, let's talk about Robert Frost. Who is Robert Frost? Robert Lee Frost, born in 1874 and died in 1963. Robert Frost was an American poet, but most of his works were published first in England, after that in America. He has won 4 Pulitzer Prize. In 1924, the first one is New Hampshire. In 1931, collected poems. In 1937, a further range. And in 1943, he got Pulitzer Prize for the work A Witness Tree. So, our poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, this poem is included in the collection of poems New Hampshire. And for this collection, in 1924, Robert Lee Frost won Pulitzer Prize. It is a phrase or a form of words which is written for the dead person on his or her tombstone. It means epitaph, it is the last word of the persons who has already died. So, what is the last word, or you can say what is the epitaph of the Robert Frost? That is, I had lover's quarrel with the world. Another time I repeat it, his epitaph quotes the last line from his poem, The Lesson for Today, and the line was, I had lover's quarrel with the world. Most frequently invoked rural images of New England. In most of the poems of Robert Frost, you can see there is an imaginary, or you can say there is a fictional or sociological or psychological description of rural England. Okay, these are the main themes of Robert Frost poems. Next, what is the title of the poem? Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. So, this is the title of the poem. Let's analyze this title. First, here is a word, stopping. It means stop plus ing. It is, you can say, gerund. Stopping, it is the main form of the verb is stop. After that, we have put ing. So, this form of the verb, it is worked as a gerund. Gerund, it means this verb, whatever the action happens in this poetry, it happens currently. These things happens right now. So, stopping verbs represents present time. Woods. Wood symbolically represents forest, tree, and snowy evening. It symbolically represents darkness. So, our poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, this poem actually refers that whatever the actions are currently going on, it happens in speaker's mind in a present time. There is one woods, there are snowy evening. During that, the speaker has some conflict in his mind, whether this thing is correct or this thing is correct, whether I do any mistake or not. All these things are included in this poem. In this poem, there are total 4 stanzas, and actually there are mainly 16 lines. We are going to discuss the whole poem in 4 stanza, line by line. First of all, we will discuss the poem outer meaning. Through that outer meaning, you can say apparently meaning, okay, and after that we will understand the poem and words symbolically. What exactly writer wants to convey the meaning of that particular word or that particular line, and what exactly the poet wants to convey the message to the readers. Okay, so let's start. So, the first stanza, let me read. Whose woods these are? I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. The first stanza, another time I want to read it. Whose woods these are? I think I know. Whose woods these are? Woods, it means farm, forest, trees. So, whose woods these are? The poet starts his poem, the speaker starts his poem with a question. Whose woods these are? I think I know. So, in this way, through the question, the speaker start bridging area, that all the readers starts to involve in his poetry. So, first of all line, he put his poem in such a manner. Whose woods these are? And second part, he says, I think I know, right? His house is in the village. The owner of these woods, he lives in village. He will not see me stopping here. That owner will not see me that I stop here to watch his woods fill up with snow. Means, whose woods these are? Whose farm these are? Right? Maybe I think I know. The owner of these woods, he lives in village. So, if I stop here, if I see the nature, if I see the woods, if I see the farm, maybe he will not be able to see me that I stand here and I am enjoying the nature of beauty. So, this is the outer meaning, or you can say apparently meaning of the poem. When we read the poem on a very first sense, whose woods these are? I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. This is the simple or outer meaning of this first stanza. But we have to observe these lines through symbolically, like which word is using in which sense, or you can say which words symbolically represent what the other thing, right? So, the outer meaning, the speaker has arrived in the forest of the owner whose house is in the village. The owner will not be able to notice the presence of the speaker. Why? Because the owner of the words lives in a village, right? What is the symbolical meaning? Woods. Whose woods these are? So, woods symbolically represents freedom, right? Snow represents temptation and desire. So, In the very first stanza, woods represents freedom from the societal rules, daily life, daily, we have to do our daily actions in everyday life. So, woods represents freedom from that societal rules. Snow, it represents temptations and desire, the things which appeal human beings. House and village, it represents society and civilization. So, the speaker needs a break from the society and nature has provided freedom to the speaker. After watching the wood, the speaker feels peaceful. Another time we read this poem. Whose wood these are? I think I know. Woods represent freedom. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. So where a speaker stops, there is a woods and it is filled up with snow. It means that nature, that beauty, it is too much appealing to the speaker, and so that the speaker wants to stay there. This is the symbolic meaning of the stanza 1. At the very first line, we can discuss the rhyme scheme of these lines. I know, though, here, snow. So, you can say know, though, snow. A, here, B. So, for the first stanza, what is the rhyme scheme? A, B, A. Okay? So, now let's talk about second stanza. Second stanza. My little horse must think it queer to stop without farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. My little horse, first of all we will see outer meaning, what exactly these 4 lines wants to convey. My little horse, by these words, readers can inform that the speaker is not only in this journey. He has one horse also. So, my little horse must think it queer. Queer, it means strange, to think strangely. To stop without a farmhouse near, between a woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. So, my horse thinking strangely. Why? Speaker has stopped here, because here there is no farmhouse, right? Yet speaker stays here. Where? On the one side there is a woods and on the other side there is a frozen lake, and the time period is the darkest evening of the year. So, little horse thinking in such a manner that why the speaker has stopped here, because here there is no farmhouse. On one side there is a woods, on the other side there is a frozen lake, and this is the time period, it is the darkest evening of the year. So, why speaker has stopped here? This is a simple outer meaning. The speaker is accompanied by a horse that we exactly know by the line, my little horse. His horse feels queer to stop at the place where there is no farmhouse, but only woods and frozen lakes. According to the speaker, it is the darkest evening of the year. So this is a simple and outer meaning. Now what exactly symbolically poet wants to convey? Symbolically meaning, the horse, the word horse represents soul. Farmhouse, it represents society and civilization. And woods, these are the words which represents death, darkness and other things. So, the speaker is confused as there is no society or civilization but only nature. Nature symbolically represents death. The poet creates a pessimistic, nirashavadi, pessimistic scenery. The poet refers the journey of life and death. Another time, my little horse, thinking that why speaker has stopped here, where one side there is a snow and other side there is a woods. Here there is no any farmhouse. So why speaker has stopped here? Symbolically, little horse, horse word represents soul. Farmhouse represents society, civilization. So here, my little horse, speaker's soul tells him, him means the speaker, that here there is no society, no civilization, no social responsibilities are there, yet why I stop here? Because on the one side there is a woods and there is on the other side there is a frozen lake, there is a darkness of the night, right? So why speaker has stops here? So symbolically the poet creates a pessimistic imaginary in this stanza. If we wanted to check the rhyme scheme, in the last, in the first stanza, here represents B. So, now we continue with B. Here, queer, near, ear, lake. So, B, C and B, right? So, what will be the rhyme scheme of this stanza? B, C, B, okay? Now, our third stanza. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. He gives his harness bells. He, first of all, we will see apparent meaning of this poem. He means horse. He gives his harness bells a shake. Horse rings a bell to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds sweep, easy wind, downy flake. So through this stanza, very simple meaning we can identify. Like the horse rings his bell and tells the speaker, like he stops here. There is a sounds the sweep, there is a sounds of a wind, there is a snow falling sounds, right? Which are too much appealing. So the speaker stands here. So there is some mistake or not? There is some mistake or not? If the speaker stops at this place, so it is a mistake of the speaker or not? So the poet or speaker is confused at this place. Symbolically, let me check. Symbolic meaning of stanza 3. Wind represents power of nature. Downy flake. It is a very peaceful, appealing sounds. The speaker's soul wants to ignore the sounds, but at the same time, it is appealed by the sounds of wind and snowfall. So, stanza 3, he gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. So, horse rings his bell and tells that soundly sleep and easy wind and snow falling sound which are too much appealing. And if the speaker stands here, so if there is some mistake or not, so such kinds of atmosphere, not confusing, but you can say very didactic confusion, that whether I have to choose this phase or whether I have to choose this phase, means I have to stop here or I have to move ahead. So these kinds of a struggle it has shown in third stanza. And last, fourth and most famous lines of this poem. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. This is the classic lines in English literature, right? The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. The woods, the farm, the trees, the ambience, the nature, appealing too much to the speaker. Like, you have to stay here, you have to enjoy nature, you have to live life, you have to live life with nature only. But I have promises to keep. But I have promises to others, or I have done promises to myself also, that I have to complete this much works. Miles to go before I sleep. This much works. Miles to go, it means this much works which I have to do in this life before I sleep. Sleep represents death. Before that, I have to do so many works which I have promised to myself and which I have promised to others. It means the speaker has to perform his responsibility which are allotted to him. I know woods are too good. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, and it appeals too much to me. But yet, I have promised to myself that miles to go before I sleep, miles to go before I sleep. So, the outer meaning of stanza 4, the speaker remembers that before death comes, the speaker has to do so many things. The speaker has to fulfill duties and responsibilities. Symbolically, we see, like sleep, it represents death. Before I sleep, right? Before I sleep, it means before death. Promises. Promises, it means I have promises to keep. It means the responsibility, social responsibility, the work which I have decided for myself. Lovely means, the woods are lovely, dark and deep. It means all the things are too much appealing to me, but yet miles to go. So many works I have to do before I sleep. I know woods, farm, all are very lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep. miles to go before I sleep. I have to do so many works before I die. I have to perform many responsibilities before I die. What is the rhyme scheme? In the last third stanza, it's a sweep. Sweep, it means it was a sea. Shake, mistake, sweep and fleck. So it means here is a deep, keep, sleep, sleep. So sound sleep, deep, keep, sleep and sleep. So the rhyme scheme is D, 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 D. Okay. So this is the exact explanation of 4 stanzas, symbolically and apparently. So now, can we do a quick exercise regarding this poem? What will be the rhyme scheme of this poem? Let's do fast. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. No, though, here, snow. So, no, though, snow. A, here, B. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. Here, queer, near, ear. B, lake, C. B, C, B. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. Lake, sea, shake, mistake, flake, C, D. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Sweep, deep, keep, sleep, sleep. D, 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 D. So what is the rhyme scheme of this poem? A, B, A. B, B, C, B. C, C, D, C. D, 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 D. So this is the rhyme scheme of the poem Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. So many figures of speech are used in this poem. The first one is a metaphor, personification, imagery, right? So where it is used, metaphor, before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So many works I have to do before I die. So sleep, it represents death. So instead of death, writer has used sleep, before I sleeps. Sleep, death. So here writer has used metaphor, Rupak Alankar. Personification, my little horse must think. Horse, animal is thinking, right? So in this way, writer has used personification figures of speech. Imaginary. So in third stanza, we have seen that a writer has used so many sounds like ringing bell, snowfall, wind. So these are the sounds like readers can actually feel like they are in that real scenery. So in this way, a writer has used imagery figures of speech. So at conclusion, the poem represents several themes such as commitment, nature versus society, pessimism versus optimism, and most important theme of this poem is the journey of life. So at the end of the poem, I can say, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. I have promises that which I have done with myself and with others, so many responsibilities which I have to perform before I die. So, I hope you enjoyed this session, and most importantly, you enjoyed these poems, the lines which Robert Frost has used, the words in a very simple manner and in a very symbolic manner. Robert Frost wants to convey the meaning of life to you. So, I hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you.
स्वाध्यायः